I watched the film called A Journey to Planet Earth. This film investigated the fundamental problem facing today's farmers, which was how to feed the growing population without endangering our environment. As the population continues to grow, it is necessary to preserve the environment while feeding the people of this world. In an effort to feed the increasing population, farmers experimented with various methods to increase agriculture. Some of these methods over time proved to be unhealthy for the environment. The first place visited in the movie was Zimbabwe. The country's white-owned commercial farms occupied 80% of the most fertile soil and are well irrigated. But for the small-scale farmers struggling to make do on what is left, changes in the climate can also mean starvation. Due to the lack of rain in Zimbabwe, wildlife suffered, food supplies suffered, and 13 million people faced famine. In over 300 years, Zimbabwe's population expanded 16,000 people. Great Zimbabwe, a ruined city that was once the capital of the Kingdom of Zimbabwe, was deserted in the 1800s because it was unsustainable. Harare, the nation's capital, is populated by 1.5 million people. Each year, tens and thousands of people pour into Harare looking for a better life. In Zimbabwe, a century of colonialism altered farming. Indigenous crops were replaced by Western crops such as corn, cotton, and tobacco. The only problem was that tobacco and cotton would not feed a hungry nation during farming. Kids in Zimbabwe start to practice farming skills when their parents go off to work. The documentary also spoke about a man named David Juror, an elementary school teacher who took matters into his own hands and built a dam by his hands for communal people. This dam provides a reliable and local source of water for farmers to grow their crops. From then on, farmers' fields flowed with water pumped in from an outside source. Zimbabwe's objective is to use less chemicals to grow their crops in order to protect the environment and still feed the population. The film then takes us over to France, Europe's leader of agriculture. In central France, families were abandoning their homes as others struggled to hold on. With harsh climate and short growing seasons, it is hard to compete in an international agricultural market, so villages become ghost towns. Meanwhile, Brittany's agriculture boomed. The Britneys use a lot of chemicals, and poultry is also a big business. The big conflict was protecting the environment versus increasing production. Intensive cultivation of the Yangtze River Delta, a region in China, brought abundance to the nearby city of Shanghai, but China's rapid industrial development interfered with the countryside at an alarming rate. The country's farmers faced the problem of producing more and more food on a limited supply of land, and pollution becomes a growing threat as they rely more heavily on the use of chemical fertilizers. China chose industrial growth over agriculture, and in the movie they showed several former rice farms that have now become sweatshops for trousers. The big problem in China was if farmers failed to produce, massive amounts of products would have to be imported. In the United States, once a nation of 35% farmers, only 2% of the population still worked the land. The production demands of the farmers are enormous. The documentary visits the Haran brothers who live in Iowa. They used a method called precision farming, which is what farmers use to know exactly when and where to apply chemicals to crops. Farmers use global positioning technology involving satellites and sensors on the ground and information management tools to understand conditions of a plot of land, such as soil, humidity, parasite infestation, and more. The next stop was the Grove family in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, whose main concern was preserving some of the richest topsoil. He used a technique called no-till farming, which is a method of planting crops that involve no seed bed preparation other than opening the soil to place individual seeds in holes.